I've been wanting to buy a boat to do some nice relaxing on. But a man of my stature requires a lot of boat to float. And a whole lot of boat requires a whole lot of moolah, which I am fresh out of. So I decided I was going to build my own motorized boat solely out of parts from the cheapest store in town. Now, so far, all of the boats I have ever built have an immediate need to look underneath them upon launch, which meant I had roughly the same experience of shipbuilding as the North Koreans. To get this party started, I headed to the dollar store, where I bought some plastic bins for more than $1, some plastic bins for more than $1, and some plastic bins for more than $1. I figured I could use these bins to be the part of the boat that actually does the floating, and after 9 hours of manually refilling my newly relocated pool, I made sure that the gray tote would float, and it totes did float. I then conducted some science, which told me that the gray bin was rated for roughly 25 pounds of flotatability, which is pretty impressive considering the bin itself is apparently weightless. The white tub and the black bucket were buoyant as well, but these bins had way too many curves for a boy like me to handle, so I decided to go with the nice, respectable flat top that the gray bin had to offer. With each gray bin capable of buoyanting 100 quarter-pound burgers, it was a simple mathematical equation to find out that I would need 12 bins to float, which looks a little something like this. So I stacked up 6 bins twice, and if math is real, when I jump on these, I should simply float. I hate you, Newton. After consulting this video made by the same guy who founded the Mongol Empire, gang, I found that what actually causes flotation is the displacement of water. And thanks to Archimedes' headmaster, we know that in order to have a 300-pound floating boat, I need to displace 300 pounds of water, which means that we need to talk about my bottom. Hull designs are critical, so I laid out a couple different options for my boat, including a flat-bottomed hull that makes the rockin' world go round, a kayak style that I had no place to put a motor on, and I wasn't sure what to call this or how I would even ride this one, so I settled for a pontoon-style hull which should give me good stability, plenty of room, and a place to put the motor. I needed something to keep the pond together as it moved, and after my expanded steel copped a feel, I bought some broom handles for, you guessed it, more than $1. Even though the wall thickness was almost invisible to the naked eye, the handles were pretty sturdy, and my plan to tie the totes together was eerily similar to that of the aforementioned con. Lay an insane amount of pipe and hope for the best. I now needed some way for the totes to firmly grasp the pipes, and after some really productive brainstorming, I had an idea. So I collected the pipes, and I know what you're thinking. Is that a Fantic F2 Master in his pocket, or is he just happy to see me? The F2 Master is supposedly an amazing cordless rotary toolkit, but I wouldn't know because I can't stop watching the tool jiggle in its aluminum holster when I try to get it out. A few hours later, I grabbed an engraving bit from this 35-bit rotating stand that utilizes invisible force fields to keep the accessories in place, and easily engraved a message that's near and dear to my heart. I then used the F2 Master to drill some hole in my pipe, used a carving bit to make this rectangular slot, and then was using a grinding bit to deburr it but got a little carried away. After all that hard work, I needed a snack, and the F2 is perfect for cooking s'mores over the campfire. With this smooth slot I just made, I could now run a zip tie, $1.50 by the way, through the pipe, cut a corresponding hole in the tote lid, and now have a secure way to mount my pipe to the tote, all thanks to the F2 Master. The F2 also has 5 different speeds for your pleasure, with a max speed of 25,000 RPM, which I manually verified. Jokes aside, I do actually really like this little tool, and will absolutely be using it for jobs like deburring my 3D prints and using it for future projects on this channel when the need arises. Click the link in the description below to grab your own F2 Master, and if you apply my code, CURRENTF2, you'll get an extra 9% off your purchase. And finally, if you like sleek electric screwdrivers with built-in torque limiting, grab the S2 Pro with my code CURRENTS2 to get an extra 14% off. Thanks to Fantic for keeping the channel afloat by sponsoring the video, and now back to making the world's worst boat. The lids added a lot of strength, and after buying some tape for, you guessed it, I gifted you the experience of being a fish before it gets hit in the head with a rock. No need to thank me. From there I used these convenient pre-drilled holes to line up the pipes on the totes, made some post-drilled holes in my pipe, and zip-tied it all together. After repeating that more than twice, I had a fairly sturdy pawn, and it seemed to hold my weight without an issue. And to make it waterproof, I stuck my caulk in every gap I could find, something Genghis Khan again, and yes, it did cost that much. I then tried testing the pond in the pool, but it was so buoyant that it floated above the water, which was a promising sign. I had now built a pond 1, and after pretending to assemble the other pond because I had already built it but didn't film any of it, I was the proud new owner of a pontoon. Well, almost. I still had to build the platform and the motor, and since the dollar store was fresh out of 4x8 sheets of plywood, I grabbed a box of the most platformy thing they had to offer. Foam boards for $1.25 a piece. All told, I had 27 foam rectangles in my arsenal, and I'll wait here while you count them to make sure that I'm not lying. At first, my plan was to stack the foam into 3 separate platforms, and with 8 boards in each stack, it surprisingly held me up pretty well. But if I put my weight on just one stack, only that one would bend, so to make the platform stronger, I decided to go Shrek mode on it and layer the boards together. An indeterminate amount of tape later, the African equine platform was constructed, but it was still too squishy and there was no way to mount it to the ponds. But like my grandpa always used to say, $16 store broom handles can fix anything, and after drilling 64 holes, threading 32 zip ties, and attaching 16 handles, my platform was as sturdy as something made out of 24 foam boards and 16 broom handles.
Oh, no way.
But then I got a little too excited and spontaneously started doing my gymnastics routine. And if it can handle that blow, I think she's ready for the ocean. After throwing some more zip ties and duct tape at it to tie it all together, I was beginning to believe this boat may actually work. Now all I needed was a motor, so I bought 13 of them for good luck. These mini fans are basically boat propellers already, and after making sure the motor could handle air with 2 hydrogens attached to it, I made a cute little test boat and had the same reaction as people seeing the Titanic for the first time.
Yo, that's a boat! Check that out!
And yes, fan battery at the dollar store. To see how much weight the fan could push, I loaded the boat up with 4 root-free root beers and immediately made future plans to install a kiddie pool between my fridge and the couch. Now, if one fan can push 48 ounces of cans, that means 13 fans are capable of moving 624 ounces or 40.7 pounds. That information means nothing to me, so do with it what you will. These fans are also waterproof, and I'd like to shake the hand of the 5-year-old who made this and thank them for their hard work. And after lecturing my 13 motors to improve their airflow, I turned them all on at once for a little test and was quite blown away with their performance. Now I just needed to mount them to the boat, and instead of this biblically accurate boat motor setup, I opted to go with a straight line off the rear. If only there was some material I could buy that was one big line. I could feel my IQ dropping by the second as I attempted to zip tie the fans to the bar. But 60 IQ points later, I finally had all 13 outboard motors ready to go. This motor bar will be mounted on the back, which allows for this incredible amount of turning, and I could even adjust the height like a real boat. I do have to turn on each motor one by one, but I reckon it's time to sail on down the line, about a half a mile or so. The first thing I did was make sure it actually floated, and then it was time to see if 12 totes, 36 broom handles, 168 zip ties, and 9 rolls of duct tape would keep this salty dog afloat.
We're floating. I'm literally floating. I'm floating.
Now I was at the mercy of the sea, so I started firing up my 13 outboards, got an awesome shot of the poop deck while I fired them up, and really thought my motors would work.
I think I am adrift. I'm lost at sea. My engines have no power. I have no power. I am currently floating on parts made out of Dollar Tree parts.
Well said, Captain. The motors were actually working, and without my bloated figure weighing the boat down, the motors could hold their own against the current, which is still pretty impressive. Even though the motors were too weak, the boat was still really sturdy, and being the crusty old seaman that I am, I knew that there was more than one way to power a boat.
What does it look like to you? It looks like salvation.
So I new-fashioned an old-fashioned motor and decided that if I could reach that island and come back without sinking, this dollar store boat would have to be considered an actual boat.
think it's me. Be it for me, laddies. Come on, Nancy. She's still got some fight in her. Why am I even a pirate? This isn't a pirate ship.
Now, before I reveal the total cost of this boat, I have a question for you. Do you like cookies?
Fine, I will use the baller, I guess.
Do you like welding? How about cars?
We're not getting anything.
Dirt bikes? I've been making videos twice a week over on my Patreon, and if you want a lot more content including behind the scenes and vlog style project videos covering a wide array of topics, I'd really appreciate if you checked it out to see if it's something you would be interested in supporting over at patreon.com/current concept. Alright, after my $5 tree trips, the total cost for everything came out to $245.50, which makes this boat the cheapest pontoon on the market. And yes, this poster didn't cost $1 either.
If you like the video, do your thing, do whatever, it's fine. I'll see you guys next time.